You ever wonder what the goal of a first sales meeting is? Now, let's imagine that this is not a just one and done, right? So you're selling something that's low cost. You can have one meeting, sell it, and be done, right? Most times, sales cycles are longer. You have to have multiple conversations. And so that's why this question is a little bit tricky, because you're going to have multiple, right? And so what is the purpose? Now, when you look at traditional decks and what most people do, I would say what most people try to do is to be able to say, in the first call, I want to be able to talk about my stuff as quickly as possible and as much as possible, right? Because you don't know if you're going to get a second meeting. So if you only have that first meeting, it would make sense that you'd want to talk about your solutions and try to create some excitement from that buyer to say, yeah, that sounds good. I want your stuff. Now, I want to offer an alternative view of it. And a lot of sellers might not agree with this, but I do believe that this is right based on what I've seen from the most successful sellers. And in that case, when you think about a first sales call, one of the primary focuses of it, primary goals of it, is pain. Okay? And it's not to create pain, all right? You're not trying to enrage your buyers. What you're trying to do is discover pain. Because when in business purchasing, buyers buy to make pain and challenges go away. That's why they buy. And so you are trying to, in that conversation, be able to find out what hurts, like what's a challenge, what's a struggle, what's a frustration. That's what you're trying to do. Now, where most sellers go wrong is this. So if we think about from a seller perspective, what a seller's trying to do is oftentimes they will be looking for this, right? That is something that is top of mind for them, that says, okay, I do want to be able to at least understand that they have some pain, right? That they're a qualified lead. But what happens is this seller is doing some conversation, asking some questions, and the second that they identify a pain, they stop, right? And they're like, cool, you're hurting, and now here's the pitch, right? And they will hit you with the full court press of here's my stuff, etc. Now, what's more important in this is the buyer. And so from a buyer perspective, it's not about whether the seller can see pain, it's whether the buyer will admit there's pain, okay? And this could seem weird, because you would think someone living in pain, living with challenges, living with problems, are fully aware of the pain. But what's interesting is these buyers, oftentimes it's just, it fades into the background, right? And so what is a pain and what is a struggle? It's just part of their life to say, oh yeah, that system's the worst. Or yeah, I have to jump between 10 different steps to do that. And they just kind of accept it. They don't love it, right? They feel like it's an inconvenience, but an actual pressing pain that they have to do something about, it's just not that focused. And so what you want to be able to do in a first call is not just to say, I see pain, and then I'm immediately going to pivot. You want to stay in the pain and really talk through it. That way the buyer starts to realize, wow, like this is really terrible. And why am I suffering with this? Now, it's not about kind of creating fear or really trying to just cause unnecessary pain or unnatural pain. What you're trying to do is just to truly understand their world and get them to see that just because you have a pain doesn't mean you need to live with a pain. And so the more they start to feel like, you know what, I would like this to go away. This is a pain that is avoidable. That is the main goal. And so what's interesting is when I sold, or when I would train sellers, oftentimes I'd say one of the best goals for a first call is to not talk about your stuff at all, right? If you have a 30-minute call, if you have an hour call, if you can just kind of anchor it in their world and their struggles, and that's it. And then you use the next meeting to be able to tease out that says, this has been so great. I have such a clear understanding of your world and your struggles. So the next time we get together, how about we talk specifically about how you can overcome those challenges, right? So not only have you used your time wisely, you've gotten the buyer to see the pain, but now you've created a compelling reason for them to agree for you to come back because they want to hear the solution. They want to hear how to make that pain go away. So it is a bit counterintuitive that the best sellers kind of slow down to speed up, right? They're not in a rush to sell because they know this is the key to selling, really having clarity here. So I just encourage you guys to take your time, think about the buyer's world and where they're struggling, and the clearer you can get on that, the faster your deal is going to be.